For anybody that's just getting started with photography or filmmaking or anything like that, and you want your work to be better, you want your work to look better, and you're trying to figure out, how some people get their work to look like this, and you have the same camera as this person, but you're not getting the results, whatever it is, the best advice I could possibly give you is to learn your equipment. I see a lot of people go out and they'll buy a camera like this. They buy like something like the ZV-1, and they'll start their journey there and take some pictures or take some videos, and it's just not giving you the result that you're looking for. And you see the other creators and you see them with cameras like this, and you're like, okay, maybe that's why my results aren't looking the same, is because I need a better camera. This is just a camera I can start with, and that's kind of where your mindset is, but that's not the case. The problem that I typically identify when I talk to people is that you just don't know how to use the camera. The better you understand how all the technical aspects of these cameras work, the easier it is for you to be creative when you go out and shoot. Like, I'm never thinking about what camera settings I'm using. I'm never thinking about, oh, I don't know which lens to use or anything like that. That's never on my mind. My mind is completely focused on what it is that I'm trying to capture and how I'm trying to capture it. And we're going to use this camera as an example, and we're going to use this picture as an example because I shot that picture on this camera. Let's break down this image to explain this shot. Hopefully you know by now that all cameras basically operate with three major settings: shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. And if you're going into a shoot and you don't know exactly how those things correlate with each other and exactly how they fit together and what effect it has on your image, then that's probably also why you're not getting the images that you want, because you're still trying to figure out that balance. And that's okay, that's cool, because we were all there at some point. But understand that you can't go and buy, a different camera or maybe a different lens or whatever it is, and you don't even understand the basic settings that all cameras are going to face you with. Because no matter what camera you get, I can give you a $30,000 camera, you're still going to have to face shutter speed, aperture, and ISO at the end of the day. So at least get those things understood and comprehended. And maybe I can tell you some ways later in the video on how you can work on those things. But let's talk about the importance of understanding how these things work and how my understanding of those things translated to this image. So I captured that image on one of my episodes of Shutter Vision, and if you haven't seen it, I'll link it down below. But basically, that's when I take a camera out and I do some street photography. In that video, I had the camera set to shutter priority. Why did I have it set to shutter priority? Because I understood what I was trying to accomplish when I went out to shoot. That's not saying that, oh, you should set your camera to shutter priority. That's because I understand what the camera modes are to know what I want to go into that situation with. I knew that I didn't care about the aperture, I didn't care about the ISO. All I cared about was the shutter speed that I was using in all of those shots. So shutter priority gives me the ability to pick my own shutter speed, and the camera figures everything else out for itself. So based on that day and where I was, I knew that cars was passing by a lot, and I wanted to get some slow shutter pictures of different cars passing. And obviously, because I'm out in the wild, I don't have any control over what happens in downtown LA. Anything can happen. So I have to be prepared to give myself the best chance of getting a shot like this. And because I gave myself the best chance of getting that shot, I actually got the shot because I understood my camera settings. I wasn't thinking about what the settings should be. I was thinking about what I was trying to accomplish, which was a shot like this. To go into more detail about this picture, the whole purpose is to find a shutter speed that is slow enough to give you the motion blur, but also fast enough for you to follow the motion. Because to get this shot, I have to have a slow shutter speed, find the object that I'm trying to take a picture of, and I have to move my body with the camera at the same speed the object is moving so that everything else gets blurred in the motion blur because my shutter speed is slow. And if I match all those things perfectly, whatever it is I'm taking a picture of gets frozen because we're going the same speed, so it looks like it's not moving. It sounds very complicated, but it's not. And that goes back to my point. I think any photographer who understands how all these things work can look at any picture and know exactly what they need to do to accomplish that picture. Now, of course, if you look at an image, you might not know exactly what settings they use or exactly what lens they use, but you can get in the ballpark. Like, you'll understand the concept of what's happening for you to be able to do it yourself. So if I look at a certain picture and I see how it looks in relation to the background, I can say, okay, well, if I use this type of lens on this type of camera, I should be able to get somewhere in that ballpark. That should give me, that look. Or if I look at, how shallow the depth of field is or whatever it is, I can pretty much have a really good idea on, how I can create that look. So when I imagine something in my head, I'm not hung up on trying to find out what camera settings to use, because camera settings are something that, they vary greatly. Like, it could be anything. I can go to the same spot every day and the settings that I need could be different. Also factoring in what am I trying to do in that moment. Like, it's like, how many ways can you get to the number 10? You can add 5 and 5, you can add 1 and 9, you can add 4 and 6. Like, there's a bunch of ways to get to the same result. So if you understand how numbers work and how addition works, then you can say, oh, I know how to get to 10. It's like, if you see a situation that's an 8, and it's like, you need to do 2. Or if you see a situation that's a 3, you need to do 7, So camera settings are like that. If you understand the camera settings, if you understand how cameras work, you can really focus on the artistry of what you're trying to do. That's why people say it don't matter what camera you use, because if I use this camera or, other brands or whatever it is, like, my work is going to look the same. Like, my work doesn't change based on the gear that I use. My work looks consistent no matter what camera I have. So I saw a lot of people were surprised at the images I got of this camera because it's very affordable, but that's because I understand how the camera works. It works the same way as the expensive camera. I just understand what I need to do in that moment. Camera settings is really like the easiest part of the whole process. Once you understand how the settings work, you never really think about it after that. The whole goal is to be able to get beyond that point so that you can start thinking freely as an artist. You can go into a situation and you can see a moment and know how you want to craft that moment to look. Or you can go out and with an idea in your head and you know how to execute it. The difference between somebody that's professional and somebody that's not is the ability to do what it is that they're trying to do intentionally. Like, a beginner might get a great photo. There are people who, bought a camera and got an amazing photo out of it without really knowing how they got it. And that happens, but a professional will be able to duplicate that process over and over and over again. Like, I can go in and guarantee that I'm going to get the shot that I want to get because I know exactly what I'm doing. Like, I didn't get lucky to get this shot. The cop car coming down the road was luck. That was, I didn't have any control of the moment that happened, but I had full control over whether or not I captured the moment. And because I know what I'm doing, I got the moment. And if you put me in that situation again, I can do the moment again. So it's like, I didn't get lucky. And you want to remove luck from the equation. And understanding your settings, understanding the camera, all that removes luck. That also applies to editing, like understanding how editing programs work. If you know how HSL sliders and tone curves and, hue and saturation, all the little things that we adjust to make the image look the way it looks, the more you understand about that, the easier it is for you to dial in the look that you want. I know a lot of people ask, what did you edit this in? How did you edit it? And it doesn't really matter because whoever you're asking that question to is going to tell you what program that they're comfortable in. Like, there are people who are very comfortable in Photoshop, people who are very comfortable in DaVinci Resolve, people who are very comfortable in Adobe Premiere. It's like, you can get the job done. Do you understand the tools that you're using? And if someone is very comfortable in Premiere and I'm very comfortable in DaVinci Resolve, we can get the same result because we both understand the tools. So if you ask two people, what do they use? It's like, it doesn't really matter. You just kind of figure out which makes more sense to you. Like, what do you feel like you'll be more comfortable in? Give them both a try. Try them out, see what you like, because at the end of the day, it can happen with all of them. Like, no matter if you edit your pictures in Lightroom or Capture One or any of the other programs, they all do the same thing. That might look a little different, it might flow a little different, it might feel a little different, but at the end of the day, the same thing is happening, which is why when you look at anyone's photography or anyone's filmmaking or whatever it is, you can never tell exactly what they did because you shouldn't be able to. You don't know if a movie was shot with a $100,000 camera or a $5,000 camera because they know what they're doing. They set out to do a certain thing. You don't know what the movie was edited in. You don't know what the photo was edited in because none of those things are really important to the final result. It's about the understanding of the people who are using them. So the biggest piece of advice I can give someone just starting out is to understand and learn your tools. If you learn your tools, you can get past all the complicated numbers and math and figuring out the settings for this and what happens if my ISO is too high or what shutter speed, like get all of that out the way. And I told you earlier I was going to tell you some tips with that. So what I did in the beginning was I kind of broke down each setting by itself. So I said, okay, I'm going to focus on shutter speed. I'm going to take some pictures at slow shutter speeds. I'm going to take some at high shutter speeds. I'm going to just experiment with shutter speeds, go out and take pictures and see what the impact it has on my photography. And then I'll go out and do the same thing for aperture. And then I'll go out and do the same thing with ISO. You know, just kind of figure out what happens with each setting. Like what effect does it have on the final result. Same goes with the editing tools. Like I play with the tone curve, I play with the lines and I move them around and get an understanding for, you know, how they work in relation with each other. Play with the sliders, just learn, you know, if the contrast slider does this, and if I raise the shadows with this, if I raise the whites with this, it's like, you can kind of get a feel of what happens when you make those adjustments. And that gives you a better understanding, which means when you go to edit something and you want to get a certain look, like if you saw a picture or a movie that has a color grade that you love and you want to match it, a lot of people say, oh, what LUT did you use? What preset did you use? And that's fine. Those things can help speed up the process. But if you understand the tools, then you can just do it. Like I can look at a picture, see how it looks and say, okay, well, I know what I need to adjust in editing if I want the image to look like that. Like it's not a secret. It's like if these colors are saturated, these colors are not saturated, these colors have a tone shift to them, the contrast levels look like this, it's like, okay, I can just go in with the tools and make that look. Like I don't need a LUT, I don't need a preset, I don't need any of that to make something look how I want it to look. Those things are there to help you with the process to become faster. Like if you have a certain look that you want to use, then you know you've dialed the look in, you save it as a preset so that you don't have to do all the little details every single time you go into edit. You can just click your preset, maybe do a little adjustments and you move on. So it's not like a reliant thing where you're just relying on, you know, presets or someone telling you settings. Like none of that is important. Just understand your tools. I've said learn your tools a lot in this video and now I'm rambling. So if you have any questions, comments, leave them down below. Follow me on Instagram, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.